All right, so it shows us on YouTube and Facebook. I'm just going to double check here. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get us started and kicked off. It looks like we have a couple people that are already hopping on here with us. I know we're a little bit after 11, so just to be mindful of everyone's time, we'll go ahead and get started. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. So excited to continue on with our live broadcast. Now, I know there was somewhat of a hiatus. Yesterday was Veterans Day, and I hope you guys took some time to thank those that you know personally that have served, or others in your network that just kind of have put themselves out there to protect our freedoms and our rights. So thank you to all of those veterans. We did take that time off, of course, to recognize them while we worked on the backside. So it was a little bit weird because I'm used to now seeing you guys on a live broadcast, and now it was just like, how could I handle this for 24 hours without you? So we're back, and as most are aware, we have our videos in the video section of this broadcast for you to watch at any point in time. If you do rewatch them or replay a video after it's been live, give us that hashtag replay so we know who you are and who's tuned in and which of the videos you found most of value. Now, we kicked them off in March to help you adapt your business to COVID, and then regulations started scaling back and we had our businesses open up. We transitioned those into more of a formalized structure. Well, we're seeing COVID numbers go up, and with that, some changes to our guidelines and the way that business has to be conducted. So we've gone back to square A and are bringing you some of our experts. Some of you may have seen them before. We really re-delivering the ones that we saw as the most valuable to you and reimagining some of the topics that we're bringing. So if this is your first time on our page, please hit that like button, hit the follow so you can get our timely alerts. If you are a return viewer, thank you so much for tuning in with us. I do see Stephen on here. I see Chaz, and I also see Wayne. Good morning to you, Wayne Anderson. Now, the comment section is available to you guys at any point in time to use. Use it for posting comments, compliments, or any questions that you might have. We want to get to those and make sure this is as informal and fun as possible, especially with everything else going on in the world. Why would we not make this as engaging? So with that, I want to go ahead and introduce my subject matter expert. Most of you have met Keelan Thomas. Keelan is an entrepreneur, a mompreneur now because she has a new baby, newborn, like fresh out of the oven. She will not give him away. I've already tried before we went live. But maybe one of these days she will be comfortable enough bringing him around me, knowing that I won't try and walk away with her child. So outside of that, she has actually ventured into her own business, started it for nearly 2 years now, has an online retail boutique. She has been doing so many things already uniquely before COVID that this time hasn't really affected her too much from the standpoint of changing things up. So what better person to bring on here to share with us some tips, some advice, and feedback as holidays are gearing, they're around the corner. We've already had Halloween, we're moving into Thanksgiving. What are some things in terms of holiday marketing that our businesses can be aware of, tips that they can implement in their line of work? So with that, I'll go ahead and mute myself. Please do continue to give us a thumbs up. I see Brian Dice and several others that are hopping on here with us. Alan, good morning. Thank you for tuning in. Keelan, I'm muting myself. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Juliette, for having me on here. And it's really nice to spend my morning with the ether, I suppose. So yeah, just as you said, like, you know, right now, like COVID, I think has all of us feeling a little bit uneasy and shopping experiences are changing a little bit. And so as I was researching just for myself as an online retailer, I also was looking at different ways brick and mortars can also try to adapt to the COVID shopping lifestyle. And, you know, people people use retail as therapy, right? So I think what the number one tip that I can say, and I don't think I'll be able to say it enough during this little tutorial, is personalization is so important. You want to make your customer feel desired. You want to make their shopping experience super efficient. And everything right now in the world is just a little uneasy, a little bit unknown. And so as much empathy, as much confidence, as much help that you can bring your customer, that's really going to set you apart from other retailers. And what I also thought was kind of interesting is the different ways that we can do that. It's kind of across the board between the brick and mortar and the retailer. So I'm kind of going to try to touch on both of those. So that way everybody feels like they're a little bit included. But obviously I'm deep in the trenches online. So if I refer to that a little bit more, just forgive me for that. So yeah, like I said, personalization. The first thing I think that you can definitely do as a brick and mortar is kind of create more of a concierge service. How can you make your customer feel safe, but also make it feel like you can have customers in your store and them shopping? And so if you can create a type of concierge, whether it's a shopping assistant, maybe you shop by appointment, maybe you do buy online and pick up. That's becoming a lot more prevalent these days. And something else that I've started to see a lot is you'll see online boutiques do live sales. So the more customers you can get online, they'll start to do live sales and say, look at what I just got in, and they'll do live try-ons and kind of engage with their customer. As a brick and mortar, you might not feel like you can do that, but you definitely can. There's something new that's called a showroom. And so you can kind of create an interactive experience with your customer. Obviously, it creates some back end and some like web design gurus, but you can definitely create that environment where I could go on right now and look at home goods and be like, oh, that looks good and that looks good. And I think I'm going to buy that and pick it up later today, so I don't have to get the baby out and put my mask on and all that kind of stuff. So there are different ways for you to pivot. I feel like pivoting is like the number one word in 2020 for retailers. So that's another way that you can kind of create that personal experience as a brick and mortar. And then as far as online, obviously, you want your website to be super appealing. You want it to feel like it's your home. So you want them to click into that website and say, oh, I want to stay here a little longer. The user will form their opinion when they look at your website in 0.5 seconds. So the eye attraction appeal is really important. So I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, make your website a little more festive, make it a little inviting, maybe have Christmas music playing as you come on, or have a pop-up message, Santa Claus or something like that, so that it feels a little more festive. And people are like, ooh, I kind of want to stay a little longer. The other thing too is if you have holiday items, as most retailers do, make sure that that's easily accessible. So maybe you make it clickable right when you come to the homepage, or maybe you make that the advertisement on your homepage. But holiday items are more and more important as we get closer. I mean, Hobby Lobby has Christmas all over the place already. So I think being prepared and being ready to have all of that is really important, and having that strategy is super key. And then, like I said, another with the personal experience is create pop-up messages. You can do, last time we were on here, we talked about Privy. Cannot talk about Privy enough. But they have all sorts of different ways that you can interact with your customer and create those fun pop-up messages. And your customer, if they are a new person, they will be likely to click on that. If they get 10%, 15%, anything like that, they're going to click on that pop-up, and then you're already engaging with that customer. So just kind of keep that in mind. And personal experience, your personal messages, you can do that with a brick and mortar too. Maybe on your receipt, say happy holidays. Maybe ask them for their email, and you can create that kind of holiday communication and always be touching base with them. The only hindsight to that, or the only negative part to that, would be that you want to also make sure that your customer feels like you're acknowledging them. So if they just bought something, make sure you're not sending them emails over and over that's like, buy this, and they've already bought it. That really turns your customer off. I sent an article to Juliet, and it was from Forbes, and they talk a lot about this, and it's really interesting, and I definitely encourage everyone to read it. But they talk a lot about what the customer wants, why the customer will come back. And right now, in the time of COVID in 2020, the customer wants they want to feel like you know them. They want to feel like you're friends. They want to feel like they're making a difference for the owner, and that's really important. So you need to make sure that you have a customer loyalty program and make sure that you're acknowledging your new customers, and maybe when you ship something out to them, send them like, hey, it was so great to have you. Something personal like that. That's just really important. And in marketing these days, personalization, like I said, is everything. Another great idea is to keep the holiday traditions kind of alive. Things are changing. We don't know, if we're going to have as many holiday parties to go to or different things like that. So we're kind of going to be in our homes a lot more. So how can we create those holiday traditions? Online performances. Maybe as a business, you can sponsor an online performance of the Nutcracker or something like that. Do live giveaways like I spoke about earlier. Do 12 days of Christmas, or Santa's coming to town every day, or, different creative ways to engage your customer, but also make it feel still traditional and still special for the holiday season. Because I think we all need that extra cheer, if you will. The other big thing for online is if you haven't created a cart abandonment message, do so right now. Don't just go and do it right now. That is so important. And I cannot tell you how many customers I have converted on just sending them a message and say, hey, you forgot something, or hey, you left someone lonely in your cart. Or there's a statistic out there that says a new customer will add something to their cart and look at it 7 times before they actually buy it. So if you have follow-up, and I mean, continually, you can set your system up on the backside of a lot of different websites to continually contact that person. And you can say 3 days after they add it to their cart. You can say that night after they add it to their cart. You can kind of create what kind of communication you want with your customer, and you'll start to learn, what customers need a little bit more reminding and who doesn't. But that message is so important, and it also makes your customer feel like, hey, they remembered me. They want me to shop at their store. Oh yeah, I was going to buy my uncle that and I totally forgot, and that's the perfect stocking stuffer. Check that off my list. A lot of people are looking to cross names off their list these holiday seasons. So the more you can help them do that, the better. So create a cart abandonment message. I cannot encourage that enough. The other thing is a visual search feature. So I know a lot of times you can type in, I'm looking for, a sweater that has little balls on it or something like that. So creating those key search words is really important. But then also, if you're able to have a visual search, so when you type it in, that sweater will pop right up, or any kind of, I do a boutique, so I refer to that. But if it's, a Christmas gnome or something like that, for them to pop up and for them to see the image, they're more likely to click on it than for it just to autocorrect to several different word formats. So if you can create that visual search, definitely encourage that. And then just, I have the saying, and it's really hard for me because I love to shop in general, but I also really love to shop for my store. So I always feel like I need to get new things in, and it's the holiday season, so I need to have all these new items in. What is so important for everybody to remember is it's SWOTs. So it's sell what's available today. For your staff, for yourself, remember that everything that you have in your store, you need to make money off of it, correct? So make it appealable. I don't even think that's a word, but make it appealing to your customer. You bought it for a reason. It's attractive for a reason. Show your customer how they can wear it. Show your customer what they can do with it. Everything that you have in your store is available and ready to sell. So sell the heck out of it. Don't think that you need to go out and buy all these new different things. People are looking, they're looking to be enabled with what they want to buy for people, and they have all these ideas, but they don't necessarily know. And especially as we're possibly going to be, homebound, possibly with this third wave of COVID, it's really important to meet people in their homes and say, hey, this is what you can do, and loungewear in your home, or hey, like this tree would look really good in the corner, so let's check it out, or different things like that. Just meeting your customer where they're at is probably the biggest the biggest advice that I could give everybody, and I've noticed the biggest difference in my customer base, is really being personal with them and reaching out to them in the best way that you can, and in whatever communication styles you can. And I know for brick and mortar, some have those fulfillment centers and some don't. And so I would highly suggest looking into having maybe a certain amount of your staff only focused on shipping items out and only focused on your online sales, and then kind of create that separation, so that way you can really monitor what's working in store and what's working online, and how can we best accommodate our customers who are showing up and who are taking the risk to come in, and making them feel not like just a number that they you checked off as they walked through the door, but as somebody who's important and looking for grandma's Christmas item, or that perfect stocking stuffer, or things like that. Like, that's really important. So if you can create a staff, focused on that, I think you'll find that your life is a lot easier. And as hiring, I know Juliette's going to talk about this next week, but as you're hiring, for holiday staff, that's possibly something that you can look for, and something that you can be specifically saying, I want someone to be able to handle this and just take this off my plate as a business owner, because I've got this, and this to focus on. So I think those are kind of like my biggest suggestions. I know it's kind of drinking from a fire hose, but definitely, like I said, I don't think I could say it enough. The personalization is so important, and we all want to feel a little bit special in this time when we're feeling a little uneasy. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, that's kind of, we're in the business of people, right? So the more that we can connect with the people, the better.
I think you have nailed it with that, Keelan. And it was like drinking through a fire hose, but it was drinking great stuff throughout this. Like, this is what I love about you. Like, you go through every single item that could apply to somebody. And so I've done my part in trying to capture a lot of what you said into the comment section of this broadcast. And for those of you that are hopping on, we have Keelan Thomas with us. She is the founder and owner of Garbed in Glitter and Grace. She's an entrepreneur, mompreneur. She's on our board of directors and has been on here before on our live broadcast, speaking about all things related to kind of email marketing and engaging with people through your online e-commerce platform, how to develop that strategy. If you have not watched that video, it is available for replay in the video section of our Facebook page. Today, she is talking on holiday marketing and tips and things that you can do in your business virtually, and how to activate yourself online so that you're connecting with that community, especially now more than ever. Keelan, you have a variety of people that have hopped on here with us. I see Mandy. I also see Brian Head has come on here as well. I see Counselor Seymour. We have a couple of different comments that came our way very early on, just kind of sweet notes. So I'll read them before I start peppering some questions on some of these things that you've mentioned. The good morning came to us from Brian Dice earlier, just kind of sharing a nice welcome message to you. Brian Head as well. And Brian Head clearly did not hop on when I was talking about the baby and saying that I would like to kidnap him. We've already established that Keelan will be holding on to that child for a little bit longer before she's comfortable bringing him around me. But he may get a chamber onesie at some point in time, just saying. I think he deserves this. Counselor Seymour, who's also another small business owner here in Westminster, sharing a quick good morning message our way. Thank you for hopping on, Counselor Seymour. So, Keelan, you shared a number of items, and like several that immediately resonated with me. The SWOT was one of those that I had not heard before, right? And it is, and I loved that one the most. So this was an acronym that you shared for business owners to really think of, which is, selling what's available today as opposed to them trying to find something else that they can turn around and resell. And I've heard this a couple of different ways before, right? And it's mainly, this came from a motivational speaker I was listening to the other day, and he was talking about walking down. This guy was trying to get him to buy shoe shining service. He kept ignoring, kept on walking. And then another one finally convinced him to. I mean, he counted and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be giving you a free one. He ended up paying the guy. He keeps walking, then he hears the guy counting about how he's going to give the next customer a free item. And he's like, I just got conned, right? But the idea behind it was that it's the same exact service, right? It was shoe signing service, one guy to the next. It had nothing to do with changing the service. It had everything to do with the delivery behind it. So to that end, you do a few different things. And I've seen like a variety of ways that you market your product. So you leverage your social media, you have your website. What is And then, you shared a little bit about these live demos and things like that. Have you done some of these already? Have you gauged how successful some of those have been for you personally?
I have a couple live sessions, but I have really followed a lot of the boutiques that I originally, really liked and was like, I think I could do this, and kind of tried to model my business plan after. And some of them, that's all that they do. They only sell their products online, and it kind of creates a following. It's sort of, like all of those of us who are like, oh, This Is Us is on at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights. Like I got to clear my schedule. So it kind of creates that audience base for you. And so I've definitely noticed that I've had an increasing in my following when I do live videos. People kind of want to know who's the person behind the business. Why are you selling this? What are you doing? So I think the live feature is a great way to kind of try to connect. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced with kind of what you're doing here. It's a nice way to reach people, like I said, in their homes, and they don't have to go too far, and they can, just kind of watch other people try and close and see like, oh, I like how that fits, or I don't like how that fits, or, oh, different things like that. So, and I think it makes it a little bit more real, instead of just scrolling online and being like, oh, that's cute. It feels a little bit more applicable to someone when you put it on a body.
Yeah, I think that's true, because so you and I share this like trait of like shopping. Like, oh, I already know, like you are my hype sister in that regard. And and there is a difference when you get the alert and you see a live, and then you turn over to it and you see someone, right? And it could be a consistent model that they have, or an employee that works there. They're showing off the product. Sometimes they're putting it on for you. Sometimes it's just holding it. So you get that visual of what does that actually really look like, instead of just on paper, right? So into ratio, realistically, like how does it fit in my hand? What does that look like? And it does. It personalizes it. It humanizes it along the way.
Yeah, I definitely, in the article that we referred to, they kind of talk a little bit about this, but they're saying a lot of people are spending more time in their home around the holidays. So the home goods is skyrocketing online, and people, they want their home to feel really cozy and holiday-esque, and so they're spending a little bit more money on decorating their house. So I think for different stores who are not selling clothing, they can maybe do more vignettes, maybe try to say like, this is, if you're kind of going with this theme, do this tree, and if you're going with this theme, do this tree, or something like that, just to kind of show off that and help the customers envision it in their room. I know Amazon is really great. You can click on that feature and say, see in my room. So great. A lot of us can't do that, but you can do vignettes to show people this is how you do it. And then they can be like, oh, great, I'm going to do exactly like what they did, and screenshot it and bring it into my home. So that's like another way for different types of, online sellers and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I'm one of those now. I haven't been doing home goods, but I have like my secret weapon is Tracy. She's just wonderful. And so she comes in here and she breathes life into how I want my place to look, and she'll go out there and scout it and do it. But as you're creating that comfort, right? Because more and more people are working from home, you want to feel like it's somewhere that you want to be, right? As opposed to somewhere where you're just sleeping or getting ready in the morning.
Right.
We got several other people that hopped on with us. I don't want to lose sight of them. I do see Shannon. Good morning, Shannon, from the 5-Star Education Foundation. Thank you so much for hopping on and tuning into our broadcast. Appreciate you and everything you're doing with the school districts. We also have Brian Dice. Now, you answered this question a little bit earlier whenever we were talking about customer service, the personalization. You really gave two main reasons why people are shopping right now, right? And it was the customization, or the personalized approach, and then the feeling that they're supporting somebody, or supporting kind of that family type of thing. So I wonder if this can kind of parlay into that, or if you have any additional thoughts. Brian Dice is basically sharing that this is a lot of great advice you're providing to us, Keelan. Thank you for sharing a lot of what you've done. What's your best advice for those of the folks that are currently in the service industry? So this conversation is obviously geared toward our retailers, right? But anyone that might have an interest or question like Brian that's asking from the service side, what can they do that's a little bit virtual around the holidays to try and brand themselves and some of the services that they offer?
I think just creating that social media presence is important. I know that there's sort of a hesitation to say, not all not a like doesn't equate a sell, or a like doesn't equate a new customer, or anything like that. But it is a way for you, those in the service industry, or really any industry, to connect with people and to kind of create your online brand, and to create your brand for what you're doing and what your industry is and what your service is and what you're providing. So I think continually creating a social media presence is important, and really figuring out, if you feel like Facebook is better than Instagram for you and your customer base, do that. If you feel like Instagram is better, or Twitter, I think it's really important also to hone into where you feel comfortable and where you feel like you want to share your brand, and then capitalize on that on your social media. And then email marketing is huge. I think, creating a good email list, that's yours forever. I said that before. That's your baby, creating that email marketing list. People who follow you, they could unfollow you in an instant and they're not yours anymore, but that email list is yours. So I think creating a constant email is really important. And I think that's easy to do in the service industry. Different things you're talking about. If you're a realtor, I think, kind of talking about stats of what's going on in Colorado, just making information easily accessible is probably the best thing that you can do. And then your customers are like, oh, I'm going to go to this person because he seems to know what he's talking about, and he has some really good stats, or, he seems really relatable, and I kind of want to know who he is, or like, he's someone I'd like to have a beer with. Things like that, like, are important. And I think that kind of appeals to creating a following of sorts.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that answer to that question. This one comes from Brian Head, and this is unrelated to what we're talking about. But word on the street, Keeland, is that you are just you crush it in fantasy football.
I do.
And so it's nice to hear this, especially from somebody who always brags about how great he is. So good job, Keeland, for getting that done. Anything you want to dish out or advice you want to give people? I wouldn't share your trade secrets. There's no sense in doing that because you want to keep killing it. But for those that might be novice to the fantasy football world.
Yeah, no, I can't give out any secrets. It's all in here and in here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, Keeland, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we start wrapping up our broadcast?
I don't think so. I have had a great time with you and talking to everybody, and I just hope everybody has a great holiday season. And as entrepreneurs, I think we're already used to this, but I mean, just keep pivoting and keep doing what you do, and your customer best, and your brand best. So really, you've got this. I know it feels like maybe you don't, but you do. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for those words of encouragement. Keeland referenced an article for us earlier. It was one from Forbes that was recently created. That link for the article is actually in the comment section of this broadcast. But we would ask of you, if you've tuned into this broadcast and found it to be of value, to please share it out in your network. Share it with folks that you know that are in the retail industry or have questions as it relates to holidays, whether or not they would have been affected by COVID or now have to deal with COVID. It is an interesting time, especially around the holidays, throw in this new mixture of things that we have to comply by. So we want to make sure that people are supported as possible, that they're thinking ahead and adapting. This is one of the first of many that we will be doing as it relates to holiday broadcasts to try and help you during this time. Keeland alluded to that earlier today. We do have a broadcast that's scheduled next week with Ann Hogan that's focused on holiday hiring, which is generally a little bit crazy during this time anyway. So some tips and strategies for you as it relates to that. I promise you we'll continue to deliver content along those lines. If there is a topic or things that you are running into, experiencing in your business or your industry, DM us, comment, let us know what that is so we can make sure that we bring an expert to share some of their wisdom your way. Our broadcasts are generally on a daily basis. I say generally because we skipped over yesterday for Veterans Day, and sometimes I run into tech issues here and there. But we will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. And tomorrow we actually have Doug Hall. He is the fire chief for the city of Westminster, and is coming on here to share with us a couple of things. One is obviously their response as it relates to COVID, how their services may have changed. And then secondary is what they know about the fires that were going on across the state of Colorado. I've had with us the American Red Cross, and they shared some of what what they had been providing to evacuees, their responses, but we wanted more of the lens from some of our local municipalities and what they have been engaged on, what they saw, and ways that you can continue to help. So again, we will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. with our Fire Chief, Doug. Please make sure you share this broadcast out, like the video, like our page, hit the notification wheel. Anything else that I've forgotten before I completely close this out, Keelan?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. We'll have a wonderful day, everyone. Keelan, thank you so much for being a stellar entrepreneur, mom, and of course, personal friend.